25% of global CO2 emissions with non-polluting, smaller, software-led vehicles. That's our purpose, and that's what all of the team at Toutche are driven to wake up and get through the days every day. Our product in the market right now is electric bikes. When I mean bikes, it's bicycles. And I think we were talking the other day about why electric bikes and what do electric bikes signify. To a lot of us in India and worldwide, bicycles are a sign of the past. They take us back in time. We've all been on bicycles at some point, seen our parents, especially in India, where bicycles have been the main form of mobility for most. But going forward, we believe that they can take us forward. They can take us forward into the future as well, in a better fashion, and make mobility accessible to millions of people around the world. And that's the power of electric bikes for you. I personally live in London. I basically look after the Toutche UK entity, as well as managing the overall business as its co-founder and CEO globally. India is our hub for all that we do, which is build the bikes, which includes a great deal of manufacturing, which we are quite proud of, and also build all the technology that we hope to lead the market on. So that's from my side. Looking forward to a very, very interesting conversation.
Thanks, Raghu. And one indication why Toutche is revolutionary is that it has the word "che" in its name. So if you spell Toutche as TOUTCHE.com, please visit this site. Incredibly looking, great looking website. And I'm personally very excited about this venture. I was speaking with Raghu earlier, and as Raghu said, that bicycles are something which are both nostalgic as well as futuristic for us. And by electric bikes are transformative in so many ways. They're going to transform our cities. They are going to transform our health, public health, our environment. So I'm so excited to have Raghu on the panel. Thank you so much, Raghu, for your presence. Neeraj, over to you.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Aanand. And thanks to you and Dinesh from Meshmix India to invite me. Really, I think it's a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to a very interesting discussion today. As far as I'm concerned, so I am Neeraj. I represent, I'm part of KPMG India. And what I really do is basically, run the digital transformation initiatives for my customers in the Indian region. I'm passionate about technology, so I call myself technologist, and digital in the sense, because when you say technologist and digital, so digital really means using new technologies to build newer stuff, newer business models and stuff like that. So that's what I enjoy doing, and I'm hoping that some of these learnings which I have had for the last few years and many years as far as my career is concerned, I can probably pass it on to a certain extent here. Clearly, the topic is very apt, and with COVID, we are coming out of COVID. I think everybody is talking digital in a much, increased and a more energetic way now than they did maybe a couple of years ago. So definitely, I think, this is an area where all of us should really put our heads on, focus on it, and really see how we can really transform. At the end of the day, the dynamics are changing so fast, and COVID has really taught us that change is so unexpected. So really, this is an area I think which all of us should be pondering on, and digital is the only one which can actually help build resilience, and intelligent automation is the way to go. Is what I would say to start.
Thanks so much, Neeraj. Thanks so much. Great to have you here. Kishore is here. Hello, Kishore.
Yeah, hi, Aanand. I'm sorry I'm a little late. My apologies.
Not at all. Not at all. You're much before time. And thank you for making time for us, Kishore, first of all. Um, yeah, to
Absolutely.
have you, I have read your articles. I was telling Gayatri yesterday, and a big reason why this topic is there because of an idea that I read in one of your articles that you'd written, um, where you spoke of collaboration between Indian companies and Western companies and coming out with co-created technologies is what I remember, if memory serves. So it's absolutely brilliant to have you here, Kishore. We
My
are
pleasure.
introducing us. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are introducing ourselves. Raghu, he's as you know, he's the co-founder of an electric mobility company called Toutche, which is spelled Toutche. I repeat because he has Che in the name, which indicates how revolutionary his company is, which is going to change the design of our cities and our environment. We have Neeraj, who's a great speaker. I've heard him on many forums, and Kishore. You need no introduction as our other panelists don't, but still I would like to know more about you and your work. Uh, Please share.
Sure. Sure. Thank you for this, Anand. It's really a pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Kishore Jairaman. I head up Rolls-Royce for India and South Asia. And as with everything else, I always start off by saying that if you're thinking we are Rolls-Royce cars, this might be the right time to change your perception about Rolls-Royce. And I think we are definitely Rolls-Royce, the original car maker. And then we split up into cars and aviation. And so today we are in aerospace. We are a power generation and power propulsion company. And we have three business verticals: civil aerospace, defense, and power systems. And those three verticals are fully operational in India. And I head up all of the India and the South Asia operations for all the three verticals. And we have been in India for a very long time as Rolls-Royce. We've been here since 1932. But then as time went by, we have sort of evolved with India along India's journey. And I think it is also time for us to continue to evolve with India's journey forward. And in the past, it used to be, we used to sell engines to aircraft makers who just sold to India. And then it used to be partnering with Indian companies or Indian airlines and making sure they all were able to buy the engines that they wanted, whether it be us or any of our competition, so that they have the right products in play for them. These are all very long cycle products and services, 50 years typically for a life of an engine. And development time is about 10 years and 30 years of service and 10 years of tapering off. So it's a very long cycle product. And so in defense, it's even more complicated because of geopolitics, because of needs of the country, the availability of resources in each and every country. And in all these areas, what we've constantly found is that India challenges herself, and we have to rise up to the challenge every single moment in time. When I look at today and when I look at the future of Rolls-Royce in India, it is about co-creation, which is creating IP, creating technologies with Indian partners from companies like Rolls-Royce globally. And we are ready to do that. So we can build engine technologies, we can build marine technologies, we can build digital technologies. So there's the ability to do a lot of things that will align ourselves with India's needs to the future, along with Indian companies. So I think, overall, just as a quick introduction on the digital side of things, about 3-4 years back, we created R2 Data Labs, which is our exclusive digital arm for all initiatives that we have within the company. We made digitalization a priority for ourselves. And we said that there are three streams that we need to look at for digital. Number one is going to be digital first, which means every employee should understand the value of digital and embrace digital. And so we embarked on a journey where we made sure that people are with us in the vision that we had for making us a digital company. The second one was about digital twins. It is about making sure we have enough of ability to do most of the stuff digitally. For example, a production facility. Instead of having a production facility already built up and then have a design in there and then optimize it for benefits later, before we even build the facility, there'll be a production twin that will be there that will enable us to optimize it beforehand. So things like that, an engine, building an engine similarly. But these are all very long gestation periods. They're not easy projects. There's a lot of things involved, a lot of people involved. But we are on that journey. And the third most important point is data. I think data, we have to make sure that we have petabytes of data. For us in the manufacturing process, in the operations process, and in the services process, there's tons of data. The challenge has always been about how will the data be? How should the data be organized? How do we analyze the data? What do we learn from the data? What do we do to the future of our products and services with the data? So data was a third stream that we looked at, and we are looking at very seriously. We created a team of 100 people here in India. We formed a collaboration with TCS. And then now we are moving forward. We tried to do a startup ecosystem. Unfortunately, COVID put a hold on things for us. But we continue to evolve in that space, and we continue to do a lot more in digital because it is one of our visionary future strategic initiatives. But as we look at digital, as we look at data, as we look at people, it is extremely important that there's balance between data and between people. And artificial intelligence can help. Excuse me. But unless deployed properly, I don't think artificial intelligence will be able to do for us the things we wanted to do. So having said that, we also came up with an AI ethics framework. And that AI ethics framework is something we believe is absolutely essential if artificial intelligence is going to be the way of life for all of us as we go forward. I'm going to stop right there. I hope I did not exceed my time given to me and I do not bore you all completely. But if there's any further questions or anything else you want me to comment on, I'm happy to take it from there. Back to you, Aanand. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kishore. Thanks so much. That was really insightful. And it's fortuitous that we have you from Rolls-Royce, which is among the most respected and the biggest names in the making of engines, aircraft engines, and precision engineering. Speaking of which, it is connected to a topic that we have at hand today, which is automation, because it is the invention of engines that converted thermal energy into mechanical energy in the 18th century, which paved the way for industrial revolution. And in India, we have long lamented that we missed the industrial revolution bus. And I personally believe that it was the invention of engines, which may or may not have happened in India, but there's no documentation for it. But it happened in the West, which is one of the reasons why we have missed the industrial revolution bus. But automation and intelligent automation specifically is something that can help us board that bus in a manner of speaking. Because we have struggled with this challenge for many years, that we feel that industry should generate employment. Our policies and our industries have aimed at this thing, that we have to create jobs. But at the same time, automation brings to mind a picture that where jobs are not being created, where machines are replacing humans. But intelligent automation is something that could provide a solution. Now, my first question to the panelists is about this, that one, what according to you is intelligent automation? And two, can it address this efficiency employment paradox, that when you try to improve efficiency through technology, through automation, there are some jobs that are lost, let's say in the countryside. I'll start with Raghu. What do you say about this?
So thanks, Aanand, and great to hear Kishore talking about what Rolls-Royce is doing. Always amazing. I'll bring in a perspective of a young company when it comes to automation. So if you went back in time, automation was all about mechanizing simpler, repeatable tasks, all with the name to improve efficiency, productivity, throughput, etc., etc. It's evolved from there, and it is evolving significantly as we speak, and it will continue to evolve at probably an exponential pace. And the reason for all that is technology. So earlier we called mechanization, but now we're calling it intelligent automation. Now, what is the word intelligent there? From my perspective, technology obviously is disrupting every business possible, and we are embedding intelligence in everything that we do. Right? Obviously, AI is a phrase that's sort of all pervasive at this point of time. But if you look at what technology is doing to automation, it's taking automation from that simpler, repeatable tasks to a more complex, highly skilled task. So the closer we get to a more highly skilled task, that's where we call automation to be more intelligent. Now, it has a flip side, your conundrum of efficiency to employment. One is about employment itself, which is what's there right now. But if you're looking at what we need to achieve going forward for India, we need to build better products. We need to have better manufacturing capabilities, processes, and technology is taking life forward in any case. So which means we need better skills, firstly. Now, that's something that is a challenge for the industry. Technology is assisting us to plug the gap. So in my view, if you look at jobs lost, that's probably not how I see it. When computers came, everybody said, hey, there'll be so many jobs lost. Look where we are. Look at the GDPs of all the economies of the world economy. It's progress. It's the same thing will happen going forward as well. On the contrary, if you look at India, and everybody talks about, did we miss the bus? Maybe we did. However, for all the lack of resources or skills that we're talking of, technology can plug that gap of lack of skills for you. So you don't really need to build armies of people to do what you need to do. Like Kishore, if he's building the kind of engines that they're building, imagine having to get that done by recruiting, training, retaining talent. You will not be able to do that. You won't scale, but you can scale machines. You can put up 1,000 machines you want. You can put up 1 million machines you want. Make them intelligent. They'll do the job for you. And let the people do what machine need to do. I mean, let people make machines think and do the job better than themselves. That's how I look at it. From our perspective, we are a young company, and all along you hear people saying automation is for large companies, it's for large volumes. No, automation has changed that game. And technology-led automation has changed that game. It's no longer for a certain kind of output and a certain kind of size. You can use technology-led automation, intelligent automation, do things that we possibly are not able to do in India right now. And that's the beauty of it.
Thanks, Raghu. Kishore?
Well, the first rule in technology is that you got to get yourself off mute. So I've accomplished that first task of becoming digital on this one. But no, I mean, what Raghu said is absolutely correct. I mean, scaling up is a lot easier when you have machines than you have people, because there is a little bit of the cognitive piece with people that becomes very important. And either they are able to learn fast, learn slow, learn quick, want to learn. So a lot of other emotional and other factors step into the way. Machines are just cold, calculative. And you just say that it's 1 to 10 now it's going to be 1 to 100, done. It's done. So I think there's definitely truth to that statement. But I always ask myself the question when I think about digital, I think there are certain things that digital is the only way to go, right? For example, if we are without computers, if you don't have the databases to have the data that we need, there's nothing we can do to analyze the data and prevent the problems from happening or diagnose the problems that have happened. So you have that piece which has an absolute has to happen. Then there are other areas where you don't need to really automate. And then we have to be careful why we should automate those areas where we don't need to automate. And I think once we figure out this thing of what we want to automate, why we want to automate, and a lot of things, I could be wrong in this, but my feeling is that in the Western world, automation became prevalent because they didn't have people. right? And so it's usually a good booster. And then the wars happen. So they had to get all the technological things come about. The plague happened, the industrial revolution had to come about. So it's like they had a very violent need and a burning platform to have these kinds of productivities, efficiencies, and maybe even basic processes. So now if you look at India, we got 1.4 billion people. We have a lot of hands and legs and minds. And how can we leverage this huge population to achieve what we want to achieve? And the first thing is to know what we want to achieve. And so in my view, there are certain areas, if you have automotive and you want to automate it and you want to produce at scale, great, go into automation. But if you want to get into a very niche area where you're going to make 10 products, like a high-end watch, right? Or you want a high-end PCB, printed circuit board, or something in defense that is very, very technologically competent, but very small scale. I think those areas, definitely people have to be the one that's going to be there. People will have to be trained to do their jobs, whether it's automation or non-automation. The jobs that employment that people are going to have is going to be dependent on the skills that the people have and the capabilities people have. Now, the problem we have in India is that we sometimes make a force fit of a square peg into a round hole, wherein we take people who have no interest in doing certain things and force them into doing that. Right? And then when they get into that area, there's no interest to learn, there's no curiosity, and that kind of hurts it. But they have no choice but to do that because that's the only earning possibility. The beauty of India today, from the time 30 years back when I was growing back, is you have choices. You want to be a designer, you can be a designer. You want to be an engineer, you can be an engineer. You want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. So with those choices, now you put people's interests aligned with the needs, aligned with the capabilities. And now when you have this scale of skill, which we all complain about saying skills, we need more. And I think definitely, yes, we need more skills. But we have to look at where we came from skills and where we are today skills and where we need to go skills. So again, my whole point about intelligent automation is that we need to make sure there's a lot of data, a lot of storage, a lot of computing power, a lot of great things. But we need to understand why we need to do what we need to do and what is it going to give us. And if you say that by doing this so efficiently and so highly productively, I'm going to increase my exports, then we need to go ahead and increase our exports. And to increase the exports, we need to understand that it's about efficiency and quality, and it's about cost, and it's about competitiveness. So I think sometimes there's too many variables. There's a lot of variables in the decision-making process before getting into automation. Once we get into automation, again, we need to understand how to make it more intelligent. Brilliant. That I think that the future over the next 50 years is going to be unraveling in this space. And we learn a lot as we go forward. And today we only come up to 5-axis machines, 2 machines, 2 operators, they both talk to each other, get the machines programmed, and the process is more efficient and faster. But tomorrow the machines will talk to each other and we have the capability. Do we need it? It's a bigger question to ask. And how do we make sure, once we have understood all this, that the machines will behave? When we create artificial intelligence, on what basis will we create it so that there's no confusion later? I watch movies like I, Robot, which makes me wonder sometimes. I'm going to leave it there.
Yes, that's a brilliant movie. And speaking of robots, I believe there is a concept called 5D, I believe, where robots are going to replace those tasks which are dangerous and dull. I think there are 5Ds, and there were 4Ds earlier, and with COVID there is this 5th D, which is dangerous. So which very well fits in with this idea. Neeraj, what do you think? Intelligent automation, is automation deployed intelligently, or is it intelligent?
So I think I totally agree with what Kishore mentioned, Raghu mentioned. I think, see, what I would say is that, the heart of the intelligent automation, which is making the art of possible, is basically this new wave of advanced technologies, right? Who have really a lot of power to kind of help you increase your organization's speed, scale, agility, and all of those things at a never imagined levels, right? We could never imagine the levels which we could maneuver today with advanced technologies, maybe even say 20 years back or 10 years back, right? Now, while we are doing this, of course, we talk about robots or stuff like that, but then ultimately all of these things are basically helping, in the sense it's complementing and augmenting the human skills, right? So I think we cannot rule out the role of human skills here. And I think, while it does mean that, with all of these digitizations, there could be, change of concept of digital labor as we talk about, and in the process, what it might happen is that, the jobs definitely are not dying. They're going to increase drastically, but it's just the nature of jobs, which is going to be changed, right? So I think, so clearly, I think, there are certain areas where the demand is increasing very drastically, which I think Kishore also talked about: the cognitive, the systems, the complex solving problems, the content part, while some of the technical part, maybe the physical part and resource management part, they might probably decline. But then, overall, it's like an exponential growth in terms of jobs. That is what I would definitely say. And that's all courtesy because of technology. And on the other side, if you look at the Indian context, I think, since I've been in technology, I think the image of India has really transformed over the last maybe 10, 20 years, right? From a outsourcing or an offshoring kind of an image. I think Indians are now part of leading research and development and innovation labs. I think Kishore talked about his own lab. I think, and similarly, every company today, I think, has those labs where people are doing AI analytics, building new IP solutions. It's not just operational efficiency or just kind of tying in the process together. It's about building new business models, and that is what digital comes about. And I think if you talk about that, I think, this is what my understanding, all the leading companies globally, they have houses in India, and the nature of the things, what they did in the past, right, and what they're doing today is drastically different. It's very R&D and innovation led today as compared to more outsourcing or offshoring, which happened in yesteryears. So that is one dimension, and jobs are not going away. I think jobs are just increasing, and there's so much of requirement. I mean, if you just read the latest news and all, right, the technology, this is the time when India is suffering the highest attrition. There are so much of jobs which are pouring in, and that's all because people have realized that, this is the place where more innovation, more R&D, and more ROI can be really achieved to enable whatever the business is, or the business outcomes, or objectives, and so on. This is how I would say.
Thanks, Neeraj. We are fortunate to have Mr. Alex here with us. Hi, Alex. Thanks for making time for us.
Hi, Aanand.
Hi, Mr. Alex is the head of Daimler Buses India. I think this is one of those rare moments in history where Daimler and Rolls-Royce are in the same room, even if it is virtual. I'll stop there, and I'll request Alex to tell us more about what his company does, and also what he thinks of intelligent automation and its deployment in India.
And it's a pleasure to do that. But before I come to that, let me just correct, it's not a rare opportunity where Rolls-Royce and Daimler are in one virtual room. In fact, we have worked also together in the past, and especially in the engine business for Rolls-Royce Power Systems, which was founded as a joint venture of a subsidiary of Daimler and Rolls-Royce a couple of years back. Now it has renamed. We have a big history. Right, Kishore?
Thank you.
Absolutely, Alex. I was wondering where Aanand was going with the correlation, but you brought it together very nicely.
Yes, you got the drift. And thank you for clarifying and sharing that with us, Alex.
Nevertheless, let me come to myself. Well, I'm a German. Full name is Karl Alexander Seidel. And as Aanand said, I'm here responsible for the bus business of Daimler in India. I started my career in the Indian context in 2006, coming to India, and our goal was not to offshore, as Neeraj said, business to India and then profit abroad. We wanted to conquer the Indian market. We started with trucks at that time, looking what can be done in order to participate in the Indian market, because the Indian truck market is very, very large. So is the bus market. And so over time, we established our company, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles, first with trucks, later on with buses, focusing first on the Indian market to gain the experience. And of course, we profited from the cheap labor that are in India, but we started very early to introduce also automation. And why have we installed automated processes? Very simple. Cheap labor is available, so it was not to substitute labor, it was to complement skills that are not available, or to support processes with automations that the quality of the product is better. And that led us then to a level which enabled us to start also export business out of India successfully. So we are one of these companies who could start breaking this myth: Indian products have cheap quality and cannot be sold in export markets. That's not true. India can produce high quality products, and these are accepted in export countries. Trucks and buses out of Daimler are a paragon, an example for this. And this is also in terms of intelligent automation, Aanand, where there's an excellent example where we used exactly that in order to make here our processes more robust and bring in automated processes with Indian technology. And there I agree with Kishore and also with Neeraj. India has big potential. We have huge labor force, which is in the youth of India. They have huge potential. You see, what you have: engineers, you have software engineers, you have technicians, and all of them have a great potential to find great ideas. And these ideas are simply converted into automation and can really help the processes of all companies to grow. Let me go back a little bit in my past, just to make an analogy, because Neeraj said, well, there is also the threat of cutting jobs because of automation. Well, when I was in university, the personal computers came up. So there was the threat, oh my God, when I'm ready with my university, where will I get a job? Because a lot of jobs will be cut because personal computers will take over the office work, and they will automate also development, etc. In fact, when I was then ready with my studies and my masters, there was a lot of new job offers that were not created before, that was just created because of the options of personal computers. And we will see the same also coming up now with the new generation. The guys think, oh, with artificial intelligence and big data analysis, whatever comes, oh, there will be a lot of jobs will be cut. Kishore said nicely, well, the machines will talk to each other. We will not need a human, maybe in between. My prediction is we will see there will be new jobs created and even more interesting than the current ones. So therefore, nobody has to fear about automation. Maybe that's.
Thank you, Alex.
My introduction.
You addressed a very important point, and there was something that you said yesterday, which was as impactful, was that the definition of automation has changed. Earlier, it was the conversion of or the replacement of human labor with machines, but now it is about optimizing and maximizing productivity, right? Would you want to add to that thought?
Well, Kishore just touched upon it, that just after the Second World War, the focus of automation was to substitute labor which was not existing, or later on, then in the 90s and 80s, it was to find cheaper labor than it was in the developed countries. And therefore, either they outsourced to a country where cheap labor was there, or they introduced automation. So that was simply cost cutting and efficiency as a principle. In today's world, there is the major principle: how can I use automation to improve my processes and the quality of the process and the outcome? So that is a shift in the focus of using automation, and therefore also for small series productions. And I come back to my company. Buses are a small series. We are not having 100,000 per month like passenger cars. We have a small production only. We can also introduce automated processes in certain areas in order to improve the work environment. You mentioned it, Aanand, especially where we have an environment in the paint shop or somewhere else where hazardous goods are there. A robot could make sense, even for small series. But also in other processes where we need for welding processes high precision. It's beneficial to support that by an automated process in order just to have the right quality as an output.
Thank you, Alex. Raghu, now let's take this question to high altitude level and see if there is an alignment between intelligent automation and the goals of Mission Make in India. And there is a sense of foreboding, or there is a sense of the pandemic has brought in a sense of imminent doom. We feel that all the institutions and the things that protected us in the past, they have not been able to cope very well. But the upside, if there was one, was that automation and digitization have accelerated in speeds that would not have been imagined possible. So Raghu, my question to you and the other panelists is that like it or not, automation is here. Now it is up to us to understand how to deploy it best for us to be able to not only make our operations better, but also as an ecosystem evolve in a way to collaborate with our counterparts in other words, or in other words, be a greater part of the value chain. So my question to you is, how does intelligent automation fit into the Make in India puzzle? Raghu, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, that's the first note. So two things there. The first point is, if you look at the world's biggest manufacturing companies today, they're all transforming. They're transforming fundamentally, leveraging technology. And many other industries are doing the same. And guess who's helping and who's at the heart and center of those technology transformations right now? India. You look at big consulting houses or big technology players, whether it's Microsoft, Google, or the Accentures, IBMs, or Infosys, or Cognizants of the world. These are the big technology houses who have their R&D and build centers in India in vast numbers, helping these organizations transform. Now, most manufacturing today is getting infused with technology. So if you add the intelligent part of the word to automation, and we're talking of bringing technology to play into Indian manufacturing. If we are able to help the world, then we should be able to help ourselves too. Now, the second point, manufacturing, like Kishore and everybody else have mentioned, you can't do without without human let's say labor. It's no longer, I'd say, cost arbitrage. I think it's to do with what sort of goals you set as a country to become. So the most important point is India has a massive opportunity to become a manufacturing hub for global organizations. Number two, also innovation and creation hub to make products for the world, and actually, may I add, for India as well. We call Make in India. I think we should start talking of Make for India too, because what technology and automation does is it increases all the aspects that we talk of, productivity, efficiency, throughput, cycle time, but it also improves your quality. So you are then taking advantage of what technology is doing today, which is resetting the competitive equations in the world. So I look at the whole Make in India program, or the Make in India sort of thinking, to bring India into the fore of the global manufacturing map, and actually push India in its goal to become a manufacturing bellwether.
Thanks, Raghu. Kishore?
So Anand, I saw you say that like it or not, automation is here. Let me put it this way. For the record, we like it. Okay, so we'll leave it there on that one, for the record. And then as we move forward, you also mentioned about, what does automation mean for Make in India? I think when you look at Make in India, the future, we have to have competitive advantages, and we do not want to have competitive disadvantages. Now, if we are not automating for the right reasons, which is productivity, which is high throughput, scalability, sustainability, then it's not a process that requires automation. But if you decide if you look at it, if worldwide those processes are automated, and if in India we are not automated, and because of that we are suffering anything in terms of quality or speed of production or cost or value, then of course we need to raise up. It's a disadvantage we have. Now, that is one way of looking at it. The other way is the competitive advantage, is to see that, like Raghu mentioned, if you're making it for a very large domestic market, then you're going to be looking at exports. The scale that is required, and a classic example is the vaccines for the recent COVID pandemic that we're all in the middle of still, right? The ability for India to scale up exists. And the vaccine manufacturing process is one of the most automated processes in the world, because the accuracy is required, the scale required is all tremendous. Now, when you take that process and it gives a competitive advantage for India, to the point that Bill Gates says that if there are future pandemics and there are mRNA vaccines being developed, India will be the front for the manufacturing of those, right? They will be chosen for those, right? So here we have created a competitive advantage for ourselves in an automated environment, right? And made sure that we are able to show the world our capability. Did we not have the skilling? We had all the skills, but we needed to make sure there was the right skilling that happened, to make sure the right automation happened at the right point in order to create ourselves that advantage. And I think Make in India, as we speak more and more about it, is all about having that competitive advantage globally, and automation, and intelligent automation particularly, both in terms of intelligence of whether we need automation or not, and intelligence in terms of how we use the automation and how automation colludes with the robotic processes, is going to be what will put India with the other large global economies like China and the US today. We'll be number 3. It's a question of when, but how do we get on par with the rest of them in 2050 or so? And that's the conversation that will happen for us when we have the competitive advantage. Intelligent automation will give us that competitive advantage. That's where Make in India will shine.
Kishore, I'd like to know more on the collaboration part that you once wrote about, and it is particularly useful here, that point, because of what happened in the last 3-4 years, globally, in terms of the trade conflicts between the two greatest powers, economic powers in the world. And that partly happened because of the ferocious rate of automation that happened in China, and to what some economists refer to as the China shock, that some economists discovered took away non-farm jobs in the US. It was so rapid, the scale of automation. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that when there is one extreme example that we have, when you deploy automation at such a large scale and such a ferocious magnitude and scale, something that the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping calls as the nose of the ox. He calls that whoever has the reins of the technology in their hand will rule the world. So what happens is that one does not always create friends in the world. People feel that you are taking away their technological edge. But you wrote something that could address that issue. You wrote about co-creating solutions, where it's not about just about who created the technology and who took it and who took advantage of it. It is that you bring your best, we bring our minds together, and we create something useful for both of us. Can you share a bit more about that idea?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it started off for us, it was very simple that if India needed to create an aircraft engine technology, they can do it by themselves. Do they have the capability? Absolutely, yes. Do they have the capacity? Yes. But they're not being able to do it now because the burning platform did not exist, right? But instead of taking some new technology that exists somewhere in the world, you can buy it, or you can just tell them we'll buy it, but you manufacture it here. But what always countries today who are at the forefront in technologies, what they've actually done is developed it themselves, right? And I'm going to go a little bit further before I get to your point, actually, is vaccines. Covaxin was developed in India. Covishield was manufactured in India. There's nothing wrong in manufacturing. But when you are developing it by yourself, you're creating a different skill set, a different thinking in the minds of people. So you can either go about and you can say, I can build it, or you can say, I can develop it. But the whole in the world together, or provide those products and services together to the world. So if I can collaborate in India, Rolls-Royce in India, then take that engine and manufacture it in India, depending on, because we are from Britain. So between UK and India, there's a partnership. And we can basically say that with that partnership, we are able to sell those engines on aircraft built in India and maybe built elsewhere in the world to end users around the world. So you would accelerate the time frame required for the technology development. You will accelerate the reach into the market, and it's a win-win situation. So that was purely the concept that with which I spoke about. But you take that into other areas, and you will see the same happening. I mean, we did a beautiful job with the Maruti Suzuki collaboration. If you look at it, those cars rule Indian markets too, right? It's a classic example from the past. And it's like both of them created a product that was for India. And so that is the whole concept of co-creation. It's not like we've not done it. It is something we would like to quickly forget and try to do something that is of today's, what do you say, sweet tooth or whatever it is, right? But I would rather say that, look, I think partnerships and collaborations are the way for the future, especially in data sciences. I think there's a lot of learning. We have a lot of data in India. So learning from the data can be tremendous. We'll definitely do our own stuff. We'll definitely grow in that area. But at the same time, if we can partner, collaborate with other countries, with other values, then I think the whole equation, the sum of 1 + 1 becomes 3.
Thank you. Thank you, Kishore. That was an excellent example of Maruti Suzuki. Neeraj, how do you take this piece with the bigger chessboard of Make in India? How does it align with the bigger picture?
Actually, my view is that, if you really look at, so I would like to divide this into two Make in India. Basically, one is maybe the last 5 years and maybe now the next 5 years and so on and so forth. So if you really see, I think, for whatever reasons, I think if you talk about the challenges, of course, there were certain challenges because of whatever low productivity or whatever cheaper import substitutes and stuff like that. I think our if you look at it as a part of the GDP, our manufacturing contribution has been quite lower as compared to the peers, in the global competition, like for example, Thailand or Malaysia, because everybody is around 20+ percentage, right? So those were the challenges. But what really helped was for if you look at Make in India, one success was basically all of these exporting and this mobile manufacturing and stuff like that, where I think there were, if I'm not wrong, I think 300 mobile and mobile component manufacturing units were set up, I think generating thousands of jobs during that 16 to 19 period. And not just that, I think if you look at electronic hardware production, I think that really grew at a compounded growth of over 24% in the last 5 years, which is phenomenal, right, as a part of the positive. But if you really look at the second part of it, which is where I am very optimistic and excited about, is if you really look at, the Atmanirbhar scheme and stuff, they're really not talking about, estimations of percentages to the GDP, right, as far as manufacturing is concerned. So if you talk about, so they're talking about 15% of the GDP, which is like $412 billion, right, as of November 2020, and which is a classic opportunity to kickstart Make in India 2.0. This is how I would really put it. And one is that, and the other thing that we've also learned in the COVID, right? I think if you look at what did we learn in COVID, I think we've really learned that the supply chain realignment has to happen at a global level, right? Because we figured that out, that the supply chains had cracked, and I think and many countries today, like for example, from the countries I can mention, US, Japan, we're all reading in the news, South Korea, they already have expressed interest to shifting the production facilities to India. Right, so that's a big positive if you really look at it. Plus, the government is also trying to bring in a lot of measures, be it in terms of investment-driven policies, tax cuts, and stuff like that, to be able to bolster, Make in India too. The second thing what we also learned is that we were actually over-relying on the imports from certain dominant geographies, like things like APIs or smartphone components and stuff like that, or television components. I think a large percentage, maybe 70+% were dependent upon one country. So those kind of things are getting realigned. So those are the learnings, basically. How do you really make Make in India 2.0, if I would call it, more successful? And finally, I think we know and we see that there are more than 150 international companies in India who have their R&D centers, right? And I think India is also getting into the bandwagon where they are actually getting into doing a lot of research and innovation, as I think Kishore talked about, Alex talked about, even Raghu talked about. So a lot of this innovation is really happening. And if that happens at a more drastic pace, I think clearly, that will really fuel in Make in India to a large extent. And I think domestic manufacturing and all will get really fueled in. So it does tie in an overall context, because what is the fabric which lines this is automation, right? The digital thread or whatever you call, which kicks in, which brings in all of these things together, right from innovation to market, building things faster, better, and of that quality, as Alex mentioned, to its own customers at a global level. So I think it's coming into place from an overall perspective. Aanand, is what I would say.
Thanks, Neeraj. Alex, your thoughts?
Well, let me first briefly come back to what Raghu and Kishore said. The Make in India for India and the world, that should be the program. And this is also supported by the big slogans and the programs announced by the government here, by Vocal for Local, Atmanirbhar. You all know these programs. But this is not a new concept. If we look a little bit in the past, this is exactly what China did. China looked that they brought the technology into China, and then they produced for China in the first row, and then only they expanded, and then they started exporting. They have proven that they can do the right quality in their country, and then made more out of the growth and of the volume inside the market, and then only they went export. And exactly that is what also India should now focus on in the Make in India 2.0. Make use out of your skills. Let's make use out of the technologies that are available. Let's develop new ones. Let's prove that in India, and then let's bring that outside of India. Now let me come to the part of why intelligent automation plays a major role. Well, in my 15 years of experience here in India, what I have recognized is a lot of the Indians are very great entrepreneurs and very creative. Not because of here Jugaad solutions are very famous, but this indicates that you are solution oriented. And this is what you can also see in the creation of new companies. 2019, 45,000 plus startup companies in the new technology sector were registered in India. 45,000 plus. That means you have a huge potential of young entrepreneurs who are intelligent, want to have something new, and want to do something in the new technologies. Let's make use out of that. And if we use that intelligently, then Make in India 2.0 will become much bigger than we can expect. And then, as Neeraj said, then whatever it takes, we will be successful.
Thanks, Alex. Now, my final question to the panelists is that of the micro level implementation. Before I open this, open the forum to the attendees' questions. Alex, you so rightly pointed out that we need to make for our market, and then we need to expand it to exports. And this is the right way to go about deploying intelligent automation and aligning it with the larger goals. Now, and it's been a long issue, an issue for long, that as Indian consumers, we view Indian made products, made in India products, as somewhat inferior compared to products that are made elsewhere. Now, this is a sense that very recently is now reducing in magnitude. There are some great companies, great quality companies coming out in manufacturing sector. In services, obviously, we have the Olas and we have the Urban Collabs and other companies that are doing a great job. But in manufacturing, there are very few companies in India that are able to compete with international brands. Well, it's not about Indian or international as far as the manufacturing products are concerned, but the manufacturers who are based in India. My question to you panelists is that how do they decide how to maximize the utility of automation? At what point in their production line should they deploy automation in order to maximize efficiency and maximize the quality of the product? Raghu, can you say this from your experience as to what were the factors behind your decision to automate parts of your production cycle?
Aanand, I think every company should automate based on what their goal is. There's no one goal for automation, and there's no one goal for technology. So our goal as an organization is to build high quality products that deliver the best experience, the best riding experience. Period. That's our goal. And we want to do that by infusing technology into the bikes and by also using technology to make them. Another organization could do it totally differently, which is they may want to drive economy priced products at scale, which means the automation and technology is going to serve a very different purpose there to make sure that the costs are most optimal and they can generate volumes at the most optimal cost. So for us, given that we are focused on high quality, better experience products, we tend to focus more on building products that our customers are proud of. So I come back to the first point, which is just our corporate leadership in India, startups all the way up to the largest enterprise. I think the intent to create, develop, and make things ourselves and in India is probably one of the first things that we probably need. And it is challenging because that sometimes the ecosystems are not there. So for us, there was no choice. That was going to be our differentiating proposition. Otherwise, we couldn't have existed. We couldn't have competed with larger companies who can capture the economy segment better. So for us, it came down to, I'll give an example of making frames. Making bicycle frames, especially higher quality, better finished frames in India, using alloys, aluminum alloy in specific, is just a very, very nascent it's sort of capability. We still don't have it. And you had to depend on other countries' suppliers to deliver that. So how do we do that? You need to have better skilled labor. That's how some of the other countries do it. But there's an alternative to it. The larger companies do it with robotic welding. Okay, they use robotic welding machines to create the best frames, because ultimately when it comes to frame making, you have the making frames, which is all about the tubes and the welding, and then the finish. So we have started with, we didn't go through the same evolution or same sort of process of doing it manually, getting it right, and then generating volumes and then getting to automation. We are trying to cut the whole process and get to automation straight away, and technology-led automation, because that's the only way for us to build what we are looking to build. So the goals are going to be very different for every organization. And may I say that the need for better quality products is increasing. I don't think India is anymore the country where you can say that everybody just wants the cheapest product at whatever quality. There is that segment that appreciates better quality growing. So that intent to make better quality products, and hence using automation to deliver that, is not a bad idea at all.
Thanks, Raghu. Kishore, your thoughts?
I think for us, automation has been there for a very long time. Most of our manufacturing has been outside of India, Great Britain, or in US, Germany. And we formed 2 joint ventures in India, one in Bangalore with HAL and the other one in Pune with Force Motors. In the Bangalore joint venture, which is manufacturing aerospace parts, which are shipped directly from India to the manufacturing assembly facilities in Derby and in Dulwich. There we employed people, trained them, got the necessary machines, got them all going. And then after a period of time, we looked at the productivities, the efficiencies, and we looked at training people, which skills we need to impart, which skills do we want to have plug and play. So we kept building on it, and we still have a lot of people there. We still have about 160 people in that outfit. But we keep automating as much as we can. We do have automated machines, so it's a CNC programming. So the operators are all doing CNC programming. They are not doing physical lathe operations or mill drilling operations, but they're all just programming machines. Now the next step of it is, can the machines once the first machine finishes something, can it hand over a data sheet of a finished product to the next machine, and that machine picks up from this machine's data and goes and operates on the product to the next level. And I think these are the technologies that we're thinking about and what we want to do as we go forward. And at the end of the day, it's about data, and it's about collecting the data. It's about having the data in the appropriate formats to do the necessary analysis, and also understanding what we're trying to solve. And so for us, that's been the journey. And in the JV here, we continue to progress through that. And we have not leapfrogged, like Raghu mentioned. Yes, certain operations, there are abilities to leapfrog from not going through the whole, grounds up. But I think we have gone up the grounds up way on that joint venture. And I think we'll do the same thing with the other joint venture as well. And I think, but the tools are available, the capabilities are available. We do use a lot of automation. Like in the Force Motors joint venture, the data is directly downloaded from our MES systems and the ERP systems. And the production line starts. But then this is data which the operator has to look at and do the operation, and then finished operation data is uploaded. So the data is transferred station to station. At the end of the day, all the data is collected. And so if you have a problem, we analyze the data, goes into the feedback loop, corrects itself at the front end, comes back. So that's the level of automation we're using today. Tomorrow, this can be even further automated. We know what can be done. We know how it can be done. It is just a question of taking it step at a time, keeping our feet planted firmly, and then getting to the next level.
So what would you advise a mid-level manufacturer based in India as to how to maximize efficiency and quality, and what parts of the operation could he or she automate?
See, one of the things is I'm on the board of our joint ventures, and from a board's perspective, we look at it and say, what is the bottom line, right? I mean, we are not looking at a manufacturing process. We've got the bottom line. And so to our CEOs, we say that, look, we want you to make sure that cash flow exists, make sure that the quality exists, make sure that you're getting enough revenues into the joint venture, usual stuff. But then through this process, what happens is the CEO is a person that analyzes with his team to say, what are the productivities I can bring so that we can continue to enhance the capabilities of the operation. And by enhancing the capabilities, we achieve two things. One is that by being able to do all this a little bit faster than having to go through a very, very routine process, by being able to do it faster, we are able to absorb new parts that come our way into the operation. And when you can absorb the new parts, that means your revenues are changing, your operations is changing, the people are learning different things, but at the same time, you're doing it much faster, right? To onboard about 144 parts in the beginning, it took us about 4 years or 5 years. And now to onboard 24 parts, it took us about 6 months, right? And our onboarding process is very rigorous in the aerospace sector, extremely rigorous, right? Normally, when we have to bring a supplier on board, it's 18 months. So why did that happen? It's not because of the people's skills, but it was because of processes that have been fine-tuned and the learnings from the data that we collected that all came into the play, right? Now, if any company is looking, I think the first thing for them to look is at their operations and say, like Raghu correctly pointed out, if people are not looking and saying that I want the cheapest product, people are looking and saying I want the best product, right? When people are saying I want the best product, what is the weakest link in your operating chain? And to fix that, what is it necessary? And to fix that, if it means, like Raghu pointed out, robotic welding, maybe you need a robot to weld that particular operation in that particular space and then move to the next space accordingly. So those are all analysis that is done on a case-by-case basis with every single operation. But if people are not looking at that, what they will miss is that the end user is looking for the highest value at the right cost and not the lowest cost. So I think that being that the goal, they have to look at the operations and make the necessary modifications. That's my 2 cents on that one, Aanand.
Thanks, Kishore. Neeraj?
Right, Aanand. So I think, you've asked the most important question: what should a mid manufacturer or a small manufacturer, or even large manufacturers do, and where do you start, and how do you really approach it, basically, right? So I think this is a question which I think I also often get. So clearly, there's no one answer to it. I think, of course, Raghu mentioned from his perspective, his experience. Kishore talked about a very important parameter, which is the bottom line. And of course, I'm sure Alex will also talk about certain insights from Daimler. So clearly, I think, it's a function of where you are and where you want to be. And I think there are a few things which is very important is basically, the ROI impact, right? Especially in the Indian context. And I think essentially, I can talk about 5 points or 5 areas which, one should consider. One is, you need to start with performance, right? It's not about digital, it's not about data, it's not about technology. You have to start with performance, and you need to decide, what is your goal. You're talking about a downtime reduction, are you talking about utilization reduction, are you talking about building certain quality accuracy, and are you talking about time to markets? All of these, performance is something which is business led, right? So if you're actually solving a business problem, so what is that business problem you want to solve with? So you start with performance. Data technology is not something which you start with first. You look at the business problem and then you start looking into data technology. Second is basically, you strive to optimize the performance. What happens is basically, a lot of companies have done a lot of pilots, examples on AI, ML, or examples on Internet of Things, and so many other projects. But what happens is that you're probably looking at doing it in a siloed approach, right? So how can you really bring in something which has already been done, and maybe maximize for the proper end rather than just doing it in isolation? This is another quick win to kind of try out something, to bring in that ROI and stuff like that. Third is that, this is the classic question, everybody says, I don't have data, the data quality is bad, this is not there, that is not there. So you really don't need to have a perfect data to get into this bandwagon. You just need to start with whatever you have. Doesn't matter, right? So this is another myth I just wanted to burst. And third is basically this focus on ROI and payback is very important. And how to really manage that is very simple, because say assuming you're running 5 initiatives, right, on intelligent automation, maybe the output from one of these can feed in to the second one. And I'm talking about ROIs and benefits here, not really in terms of data. Of course, we've talked on data. Is that clearly you're doing this initiative to either make money or save money, right? So if you're able to save money in one initiative and fuel the other one with that, so basically, how do you sequence this, right, in the enterprise level, right, to be able to bring your focus back to ROI payback, as Kishore also mentioned about those questions that the CEOs might ask, is very important. And finally, and this is the most important thing, is that you cannot do this alone, right? This entire concept of digital transformation and intelligent automation and Industry X.0 is about an ecosystem, which is your ecosystem, because you can never do it all on your own, because you're talking about 5 different layers. You're talking about sensors, you're talking about connectivity, you're talking about applications, you're talking about analytics, you're talking about so many other things, right? So you really need to bring in specialists from different areas, and you need to rope in those people. So those days are gone where you can say, I'll just call one guy and get it done. No, it's an ecosystem here. You need to orchestrate your business proposition or your business solution to, business problems through digital endeavors using an ecosystem, right? So this is what I think, these are the 5 things I would recommend any organization to do it. And you can start small. There's no one thing that, you have to do $1 million project to start with. No, not really. It's all a function of your business problem which you're solving and the ROI plan you build in to be able to solve those business problems and taking ahead from there.
Thanks, Neeraj. Alex, you must have seen this a lot in India, that because the labor is so cheap, it sometimes nullifies the advantage that one gets from automation. So in such a situation, what would you advise a mid-level, mid-sized manufacturer in India as to what part of one's production line can one deploy automation in? That's one. And the second is, what is your experience of deployment of automation? In what way should it be deployed? What are the factors and variables one should keep in mind for deployment?
So I would like to link that my answer to what Kishore and also Neeraj said. In the end, it's you should create value for the customer. And value for the customer includes also a certain cost. And therefore, the return of invest is always very important. So therefore, just saying I invest in automation just for the namesake, that doesn't make sense, because it adds in the end cost to the product, so cost to the customer. So let me go back into my past. In 1996, I started my career as in a small sports car manufacturing company in Germany. And in this sports car manufacturing company, they had exactly one robot in the assembly. That was to make the sealant to the windscreen, so that the amount of sealant is equivalently distributed amongst the window. It was not to put the window exactly into the car. It was only for the sealant. And why was that done? Because they said a manual sealant application will be not as accurate as a robot, and then we will still have later problems with our sports car, because the windscreen was part of the complete structure of the car. So it was a part of the quality and of the safety. And it substituted, or let's say it optimized the precision of the work to be done. So it was not labor efficiency, it was simply quality and preciseness. And this is what I would say is still valid in all operations. We should use the automation intelligently in the way of where it can help us without creating additional costs that are not affordable. And if this leads to a value add to the customer, if this is safety, if this is quality, you name it, then you should look at it and invest. Or when you save your people, that's also another aspect. If you say there is a safety aspect in your area, then you should also invest in that.
Thank you, Alex. Well, we are nearing the end of this discussion. I will take just one question from somebody who's posting many questions, and that is about your electric bicycles, Raghu. When are we going to see it in Bangalore?
Yeah, they're already in Bangalore, by the way. So
Okay. So
whoever
the
has
attendees
asked the
not able to
question,
see it.
whoever has asked the question, they are in Bangalore. And maybe the question could be, when is the new models coming into Bangalore?
Okay.
That will be in 6 weeks' time.
In 6 weeks' time.
Yes, but
Great.
but so far they have been in Bangalore. They have been in every other place.
Thanks, Raghu. So we, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to stop here. I'm going to sum up the takeaways of this discussion into a cover story. And as I read recently, and I mentioned this in the beginning also, that the best epiphanies and the eureka moments occur when minds connect. That has been the experience always. And today, some great minds in the business have connected. And when I sum this up in the form of a story, and today, what you've heard, some really great ideas came up, such as make in India for India. What are the different factors on the basis of which you should apply automation? And one should not be afraid of automation. In fact, one should embrace it and in the right manner, in the right balance. With that, I will end today's discussion, and I'll thank from the bottom of my heart all our panelists who made time from very busy schedules. This is inarguably the most power-packed panel that I've ever moderated. And I consider it my privilege also. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure is ours.
Thank you, Aanand. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.